Hi guys, this is the Cats and Books podcast.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome back.
I'm Izzy.
Yes, and I am Erin.
Alright, Aaron, give us some cat updates. What do you got for cat shenanigans
Uh,
recently?
let's see. So Pippin and Aquila have been doing pretty well. We took down our Christmas tree today. Finally got all that done. Took down the
Right.
decorations. Pippin stood where the tree stand was, where the tree was, and just stood there and looked up as if, like, where's the tree? Where is
Just
the
like
tree?
wanting it to come back so
Yep.
badly.
Yep. Aquila,
Well,
it's really funny.
that's
Aquila
funny.
doesn't really get too phased by the tree. Like neither one of my cats like attacks the tree or knocks down the tree.
They
Nothing
just like
like
looking
that.
at it.
Yeah, they love. Pippin loves looking at it. She loves
Like
the
being around
lights,
it.
and it's really funny to watch her at a tree. Or at a Christmas tree.
Oh yeah, I forgot to I've been looking for what temperature it is in Pittsburgh this whole time. It is 17 degrees Fahrenheit, partly cloudy.
Boy,
But no chance of snow. It was
that's nice.
snowing. The wind was very high, though, yesterday.
So as ours has been high the past couple of days. When I went to work on Friday, my poor little car was whipping around all over the
Oh,
road.
jeez, you hot mess.
I was like, oh
Jesus,
boy.
take the wheel. We are
Yeah.
coming down the road.
Yeah,
No
I
control.
made it, but
Well, that's pretty cute. My cat Cleo, Cleo and Gemini are both doing good. I was harassing Gemini today by giving him full body hugs, and he just stands there and takes it. And I'm the only one who can do that. Otherwise, he would kill you. So I exert my privilege on that often. And Cleo was in here and wouldn't leave. And then, of course, I close the door, sit down, start talking, and then she comes up and starts bothering me and scratching my leg, being like, let me out. And I'm like, oh, fine. So now there's 0 cats in the room, alas, because they would just be pestering me to let them out. Anyway, okay. I think that's it, though, for cat updates. They're just same as ever.
pretty much.
So let's talk about the book that we are reading today, or that we have already read.
That we read. Yes.
Yeah.
So the book is called The Secret Lives of Country Gentlemen. It is by the author K.J. Charles. I want to point out, before we dive in plot-wise or anything, character-wise, I just want to say the artwork on the cover of this book is beautiful artwork.
Describe it for the audience.
Yeah, so a lot of the main events take place on a marshland.
This is a Regency gay romance.
Regency gay romance. And on the cover, we have the 2 gentlemen kind of in the center of the cover at the bottom. But on the edges, we have this really pretty decorative, almost looks like what you would see in a nature notebook. It looks like drawings of like animals that are in the marsh. Like there's a heron on here, there's a rabbit, and there's all these different types of plant life. There's a snake on here. They have,
and it's cool because it plays into
cool.
the plot, the part of the plot of the book where like one of the 2 main characters is trying to reconnect with his shitty dad because his dad was like a naturalist and was very interested in stuff around the marsh, and so he also is interested in the stuff around the marsh. Even though he thinks his dad's kind of shitty, he likes bonding over that kind of stuff. And he and the other person in this book, the other main character in the book, bond over nature, and so that's kind of a key part of what really brings them together. And so that's kind of like a cute way of reflecting that. And like, you wouldn't know that until you read the book, but now that we've read the book, we can appreciate that that is like a reflection of the core of their relationship. So that's fun.
And I like to point out with this particular novel as well, the marshland kind of becomes their own sort of protective society. This novel mainly takes place in this marshland, and the people of the marsh and the community take care of each other in the marsh. That is something that I liked. They were kind of their own little branch over here in the marsh. And it seemed to me that with like people who were in town, such as, so what they would mean by that, usually in Regency times when you're in town, you're in London, because that was the main town. And,
Right.
But
The only town.
the only town, right? London.
Yeah, tell us about the background of this book, Aaron. Like, historically, what do you know about? Because this is a Regency romance.
Yes.
It is set in
the Regency period. Mm-hmm.
In the UK, right?
Mm-hmm. In the UK, yes.
And, so, okay, yes. Go ahead.
So, what I know is that during this period, some things that they brought up during the book are things that really were happening during the Regency period. For example, the Napoleonic Wars get brought up a couple different times. So our two main characters are called Gareth and Joss, or Josiah, but he goes by Joss. And Gareth and Joss, they are completely different people. They are from two different sides of the track.
Right, because we have a baronet, which is Gareth. So Gareth. He's essentially the equivalent of, like,
a Regency gentleman. He is
a fancy pants aristocrat.
Yep, he is the Regency gentleman. And then you have Joss, who
But his family sucked. Like, so he has all the money, and his family sucked. But exactly. Then we have Joss, right?
We have Joss, who is a crime lord, essentially. And he is into smuggling. So one of the things they brought up in the book was that during this, in the marshland, Joss is responsible for smuggling goods. Some of those goods come from France, which was really fascinating, and it brought up this whole conversation between him and Gareth, because Gareth is like, excuse me? You're smuggling goods from France? We are at war with France. This is like treason, which it would have been. I'm sure.
Here's the thing, though. We haven't gotten there yet because we haven't talked about how they met.
Yes. I'm getting ahead of myself, guys. But anyway, that was something that I thought was interesting that they brought up during the book.
Right. Like, to reflect on the historical placement, like, there were conversations in the book that discussed it, which, I mean, we love learning about history through fiction. I do. I love historical fiction, always have. And so that was a nice thing about this book, that, like, you really learned about how, like, society worked around the limitations put on them by, like, bullshit monarchies that didn't give a shit whether they lived or died or got food or what, you know? And it was like, we don't care about them. So we have basically, like, an anarchist versus, pro-monarchy.
Pro-monarchy, yeah.
Like, viewpoints coming together, and they end up, like, discussing it, which is cool. Anyway, let's get back to
how
they met in the
first
place.
Met.
First off,
yes.
We begin the book, these two characters in a tavern.
In London.
In London, yes. In Fancy Pants, the only city in the world that exists. They're in it. And Gareth is, like, trying to meet Joss, and they have been meeting. It's only been, like, a week that they've been meeting up. They, like, don't really know who each other's real name is. They call each other London and Kent. Gareth is London because he's from London, and Joss is named Kent because he's from Kent, a place where... Wait, here's what I'm wondering, because...
Yes.
Later we find out that Gareth's dad lives in Kent. How does he not be like, oh, my dad's from Kent, maybe you know so-and-so, you know what I mean?
Because if you remember, Gareth didn't really know his father. He kind of knew his father, but not really. And he did not have a good relationship with the father, because the father basically marries another woman, has another kid, and Joss is left to be raised by an uncle.
You mean Gareth?
Yes, I am sorry. Gareth is left. Gareth is left to be raised by an uncle. So Gareth really didn't know his father all that well.
Yeah, but still, he knew where he lived. He knew where his, like, original home was. It's not like people moved around back then. So I'm surprised, because it's a small-ass town. There's in-marsh and out-marsh. So, like, you would think that a community that small, he would know. I mean, I don't think Joss would have known that Gareth's dad was, but that Gareth would be like, oh, someone from Kent, this very small town where my dad is from. Like, we don't really get, like, we do get that he's thinking about his dad and all the abandonment issues that he has later, because, like, basically, what ends up happening is they have a couple of, like, good nights together, they like each other, and then Joss is like, hey, I gotta go back home for a while. I don't know when I'll be back, but we should still try and meet up sometime. And Gareth has a lot of abandonment issues, and he sort of freaks out and is like, never mind, we don't need to do anything. We're done here forever. Goodbye, nice knowing you, and just like
he kind of he just flips out. And he's very much, and I think we also have to remember at the same time, we are talking about a time in history, the Regency period.
Well, right, when being gay was illegal.
Where being gay was illegal. So not only are you completely vulnerable when you would open yourself up now,
right, to blackmail and stuff.
You could be
that kind of
absolutely. You could be completely ruined. Your family could have been ruined. Like, I'm talking, we're talking very harsh consequences during the Regency period. Some people you could have been imprisoned. You could have been killed. So we're talking.
Like, it's very dangerous for them. And it's sort of like, wow, this is great, and now I'm, like, scared of the future and what that means, and, like, he didn't want to be, like, happy and then have his happiness, like, taken away from him like it was with his dad, and so you kind of, like, get that in his in Gareth's memories. He's sort of reflecting on, like, the abandonment of his family, and deciding, like, it's better to just not have anything good at all than to have something good that is then, like, taken away from you. But basically, so that happens, and then we fast forward to a few months later, and basically Gareth learns that his father, who he inherits everything from, has died.
And then he inherits the estate.
And then so he inherits the estate. So he has to go to Kent, not remembering somehow that guy is in Kent.
Yeah, but
that Joss is in Kent. Which just seems dumb. I'm just like, that's the only thing I'm annoyed about. Like, this is a really good book. I like this book. But I'm just like, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make... They know each other. Come on, they know who... but... if you're from a small town, you know who they are.
But he probably didn't expect to cross paths with him again. He's thinking...
I mean, he kind of... It didn't really occur to him that his dad could suddenly die and that he would inherit everything and be expected to, like, do all the shit his dad just refused to take care of because he didn't care enough. But so Gareth ends up going to an estate he's never really known because his dad basically pawned him off to his uncle because he didn't want to, deal with him. And he got, like, a second wife. The wife had another kid, so it's his stepsister. And then his wife died, and then his wife's sister moved in to help with the cooking and cleaning and is basically a part of the household. So he shows up, his dad's dead, his aunt-in-law and his sister-in-law are the only people left in the house, and
you mean not? It wouldn't be a sister-in-law, it's his half-sister.
I meant half-sister, yeah, not sister-in-law.
And I want to point out one other key thing.
Thank you for correcting me, honestly.
I want to point out one other key thing here. So, the sister of the wife was also the father's mistress.
Yeah, so that was a little confusing.
It was a little confusing, but yeah.
It? Or was she just like, well, he took me as a housekeeper and then also fucks me, I guess. Is that basically what it was?
Yeah.
And then, like...
And, I mean, that stuff happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think the family setup makes sense in this context. Like, it didn't, like, seem weird to me that this would happen because, like, yeah, that definitely happened.
Oh, yeah, that happened all the time.
You would just have a whole second family, just don't give a shit about your kid, pawn them off on other abusive family members, they mistreat them, and then you're just a fucked up kid with nobody, like, basically.
And, okay, so to put some historical context behind this as well, one thing I also want to point out about the Regency period. So, with Gareth inheriting this estate, Gareth, by law, could have forced the housekeeper and his half-sister Cecilia, he could have kicked them out legally, and it would have been okay. Now,
don't call her the housekeeper, she's his aunt.
The aunt, excuse me. So, the aunt and Cecilia, the half-sister, he could have legally thrown them out. Now, of course, Gareth is not like this, and he wasn't going to do that. I just wanted to put some historical context behind that, because this actually happened to very famous novelist Jane Austen. When one of her brothers married, her mother, herself, and her sister Cassandra had to move to a new home in a new town. So that was something that did indeed happen. Yep, it happened to Jane Austen herself. Yeah. But anyway, he gets there, and Gareth says, I am not going to do that. You're welcome to stay here. I'm still settling into my new role, so you're welcome to stay here.
Well, also, they didn't even know that Gareth existed.
Yeah, that's the other really crap part of this
whole thing. Basically, he finds out his dad hid his existence from his new family, like, completely. And then also made no preparations for who was going to get what or who was going to be protected when he died. Just didn't give a single fuck. I mean, that happens now.
Yeah,
that's just like a common. That's just something that happens all the time. Is like, wow, would you look at the consequences of someone refusing to take care of something, and then the surviving relatives have to deal with it, like passing down the family trauma. But anyway, so that's enough about them. He basically moves to Kent. He's chilling. He's trying to adjust. Gareth, moves to Kent. Sort of tries figuring out what his dad was even up to, what he's going to do with all of his crap. Like, who's going to do what, where he's going to live, like, where's anybody going to live. And so while he's in there hanging out, he's sort of getting to know the area, and Gareth is out sort of looking at beetles and stuff, and he starts getting to know his dad's sort of interests and trying to connect with him, because he really can't connect with him with literally anything else because his dad was garbage. But he's sort of like finds refuge in going out alone and looking at nature. And while he's out there, he ends up catching sight of a smuggler, and he doesn't know who it is. Yeah, how does that go, Aaron? Go ahead and tell us about the situation.
So he gets word that the Doomsday Clan is very well known in this area.
And he doesn't know who the Doomsday Clan is.
He's like, who the hell's this? He happens to catch a smuggler of the Doomsday Clan. He then receives a letter from the older brother of the smuggler that he caught, telling him to come for a private audience. So he gets this letter saying, please come for a private audience. We must talk about this. Gareth refuses, and he does not read the letter. He's like,
can we work something out? Like, but Gareth takes it as a threat. He's like, I will not be threatened by smugglers.
Right. So he doesn't even read the letter, okay? So...
yeah, he, like, sends it away, says, nah, I'm not touching that.
So what I love... Okay. When I was listening to the audiobook, I laughed so hard.
So they end up in court for a set.
They end up in court. They end up in court, and they're taking the smuggler to court. And
who takes a smuggler to go? Who does he rat to, though? Like, Gareth, how does this get set up?
Gareth rats her. So the smuggler is a female. So anyway, he rats her out to like the local policeman. I mean, for lack of a better term, I don't exactly know what they call them back then. Magistrate. Yes, magistrate. So he ratted her out, and he said, you know, she smuggled this, and we're taking her to court. So okay. So.
Well, he was trying to help his sister out because his sister was dating the marshal or whatever. So his sister was into it, and he's like, well, I really need points with my sister. So if this gives her man a win, then she'll like me.
Yes, in some way he was
trying to do it.
Yeah, so he's also trying to, earn points with her, but
because she's mad that she was left with fucking nothing, and she's feeling kind of mean at him.
She's feeling shafted.
Well, I mean, because she was, so it's like...
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. So, basically, what happens is they're in court, right? They are in court, and they're getting ready to prosecute this poor smuggler. And who enters the freaking courtroom out of nowhere? But Kent, or, as his name is, Josiah, or Joss, Doomsday. So he is like the leader of this little criminal clan. He comes in...
It's basically a mob family.
They're basically a mob family. Yeah, A Regency mob family, basically, is what they are.
Yeah, like, everyone in the community knows them. They're like... And, like, Gareth's sister, or not sister, his aunt was like, hey, just so you know... You should have taken that letter from the Doomsdays.
Right.
And basically, he's been advised that what he's doing is stupid by not talking to them.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, they're smugglers! Why should I discuss this with the smugglers? And they're like, because the smugglers run this town. And he's like, that's illegal! And everyone's like, you idiot.
Yeah, pretty much. But what I love about this moment is that Joss comes in, and he's all cool, calm, and collected, right? He comes in... Oh, you must have identified my sister as the smuggler by mistake. I'm sure this is a simple mistake. Gareth is too busy internally panicking, right? He sees Joss. He's trying to save face. He's trying to die.
He knows that Joss knows a secret that could, like, be used against him very quickly if he didn't take his story back.
Absolutely. And he's trying not to die internally, and he's like, oh my god, I am screwed. I am in trouble. Absolutely. And he's like, okay, I'm not going to push this any further. We're just going to drop the charges. Oh, maybe I didn't see your sister. Oh, I must have made a big mistake.
Yeah, so he does rescind his statement, and then, of course, his sister's mad. The magistrate's mad. People are mad at him, and he's like, y'all don't know.
Right, because he tried so hard, right? He had stuck to his guns. Oh, these smugglers are bad. And then he's, like, backing away in court, and I was dying. I was dying of laughter. I'm
glad you liked that.
No, because
I thought it was fun. It's like a fun way to bring them back together after you think they're never going to see each other again.
Like, I was feeling secondhand embarrassment. I was like, oh, buddy, like, oh, this is bad.
So anyway, the charges are dropped. They're glad. How do they end up talking to each other again?
So what ends up happening?
And like, how do we feel about the book so far up until here? Right?
So,
like, what are our opinions on like what's happening, where we're at, the story, the setting? I like the marsh setting. I think there's
beautiful.
A lot of good like description of the area. I wish there was more clothes. This book does not talk about Regency outfits, and that's depressing because I love a Regency outfit. But some people aren't fashion hoes, and you can tell, and that's okay. We forgive this book for not being a fashion book,
right?
But
absolutely.
I do love that. Like, I mean, I feel like did Jane Austen like describe clothes at all, or not really?
Yes, she did.
Yeah, because I'm like, I feel like that was a big thing. Right?
Because
like, fashion was important.
Fashion in Regency period could tell you a lot about a person's status. Silk and embroidery were very, very expensive. So, I feel like they did not talk a lot about clothing, which was a little disappointing. But other than that, I felt The setting was beautiful. And I loved this sort of, we have these two kind of opposing characters, really. We've got Gareth, who is supposed to be this sort of stand-up guy. Yes.
Sort of trying to
colliding.
Understand each other's perspective. Mm-hmm. Like, not really seeing eye to eye at first.
Mm-hmm. And how they end up meeting. So, okay, look. Joss, he keeps trying.
Like, what happens after the trial?
Well, he keeps trying. Bless his heart. Poor Joss. He really is still he wants to be with Gareth. He's still pining after Gareth.
I don't think he's pining. I think he's like, man, it's kind of sucks that, this is bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's not my fault it's bad. I am trying here.
Right.
To reach out to you and, make this better.
And make this right. And he keeps sending him letters. He keeps trying to meet with him.
Shuts him the fuck out.
Yep. I will say, Joss was trying to save his sister. He was trying to save his sister from jail and everything else. So, anyway, Joss finally convinces Gareth to freaking talk to him. And Joss sets the record straight. He says, look, I am not going to hold our past sexual relationship over your head. Like, what happened between us that week, that was fun, that was great, that's fine. I'm not going to tell anybody. He's like, that's not me. I'm not going to do that.
He was like, I was not going to use it against you, just so you know.
Right. And the other thing that Joss says is that clearly you don't know marsh ways, because everyone who lives in the marsh understands to turn the other way and take said smuggled goods and not report the smuggling.
Right. He's like, bro, you're a fucking narc, first off.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nobody likes narcs in this town. I am telling you this to protect you from people getting pissed at you and fucking up your shit for ruining the trade that brings the economy of this town. And he just didn't really get it at all.
Yeah, at first. And what he says, Joss says, is he's smuggling goods. A lot of them are from France, which, as I brought up earlier, that would have been a huge deal. So at that time, Gareth is kind of like, you're that's treasonous.
It's because they're at war with France.
They're at war with Napoleon.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so he's like, oh my god, you're buying shit from the enemy. And it's like, look, Napoleon doesn't give a fuck about the people of France. They're starving. They need money. We need these objects. Fuck the monarchy. Goods. We don't care about them. We care about the people and what they need, and we're going to get them what they need because they need it.
Because
the end. Need it. We don't care about what's legal and what isn't legal. When people need shit, trade needs to happen, or the farmers are going to starve, the cheesemakers are going to starve, everybody, the silk makers, we need to open the trade up. And it's like, this is normal here. You need to chill.
It's like, you need to calm down. And then we have this part where Cecilia, the sister, is attacked by two men. Gareth thinks that the men were sent by Joss. And Gareth, again, goes to confront Joss and his family. And Gareth gets all huffy again, like, why did you send those men to attack Cecilia? She's my sister. And Joss is like, dude, sit the fuck down.
And they talk it out, and he's like, look, that wasn't us. If it was us, I would fucking know. I will help you figure out who it is, though, because...
That's wrong. He's like, I would never.
Yeah,
he's like, I would never.
Protect our people, not threaten them.
But it did kind of crack me up, because every single time, Gareth was so...
Drama.
But he brought the drama, though, because he's like, oh my god, every time I think... we've got this stuff settled. Then Joss comes and he's screwing up my life. And Joss is like, dude, calm down. I'm not... He's like, you think I'm more interested in you than I actually am.
Yeah,
it's kind of
dude,
funny.
It's not always about you, bro. This is not we're just vibing, man. We don't care about, your shit over there. You're not doing anything.
He's like
we're not trying to hurt you for any reason. There's no reason for us to do that.
And Cecilia...
So then what happens?
Well, Cecilia gets a little bit ticked off because she starts to see that he's got some familiarity with the Doomsdays, that Gareth with them. And she's mad and she's upset. And Joss and Gareth start to spend time together. They go on some walks. They have some disputes again about, the smuggling with France.
Yeah, but Gareth gets to show him about his beetles and shit.
Yeah, so, he shows him I love going on walks in the marsh.
So they're vibing over bugs as gays do. Vibing over bugs.
Yeah, pretty much.
We're out here loving some bugs.
Well, and the bugs, oh my god, not the bugs. The bugs. Not the bugs. The marshland kind of becomes their place to go, where they can be in private and where they can be kind of somewhat protected.
Yeah, and open with each other in a way that they're not afraid that someone's going to hear them talking about shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they kiss, and oh my. Let me tell you all.
So they find an understanding, and then they make out.
The spice in this book, guys.
Aaron thinks it's hot. I mean, it was good.
It was well written smut. Let me just put it that way. It was well written.
I was not cringed out by any of it, and I appreciate that very much.
Nope. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't over the top.
It was a tasteful amount.
It was sweet.
Of scenes in it. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was sweet. They're both very affectionate with each other. There's a lot of sweet talking.
They're trusting each other.
Yeah.
Through talking things out like adults, which is nice to see.
Finally.
When it never happens in real life, but we live that fantasy.
And something that Gareth finally tells him, reveals to Joss, is kind of his own insecurities about being a gentleman. He says, I don't feel up to the task of this. I wasn't brought up to be a gentleman, really. I didn't know my father really well. And I've kind of, this title. He doesn't
even know what to do.
He's
with the title that he has now.
It's you've inherited this title and this land and this home, kind of inherited this family you didn't really even know about. And he's, that's a lot for a young man. Both these gentlemen are kind of in their early 20s.
I think Gareth is, glad to be a part of a family again, though, secretly. He's feels like he's gained more than he's lost with his dad passing away. Mm-hmm. Because finally he's not alienated from this whole place and, people that live there, roots that he had.
Yeah, but absolutely.
The interesting thing about the roots that he has is he's starting to find out that, his dad made his fortune in really kind of fucked up ways. Mm-hmm. Also, wait, can we talk about really quick, because it was while they were talking in, the marsh, that Joss says that he was a former slave, or his grandfather was a former slave from Georgia. Yes. So he is a descendant of slaves. Slavery in America.
Mm-hmm. Which I thought that was another...
I wish there was more talked about that, because I didn't even catch that when I read it the first time.
So
your notes told me that.
Yes. So I caught that as I was listening to the audiobook, and I thought that was just very fascinating. Did
they say anything else about it?
Not really. But what they... Okay. So what I find interesting is going back to the cover art. If you look at the depiction of Josiah Doomsday, he has a dark complexion. Anyway, so Joss's grandfather is revealed to be a former slave from Georgia.
Technically, Joss is a black character. We don't really hear much about it. I mean, that's probably because they were not trying to, talk about it at the time.
Well, and I would say that it wasn't expanded upon, because I don't know if the author just didn't want to really get into that, or what.
I mean, I'm sure he probably didn't. Most people don't. But, I mean, I'm glad at least it was mentioned.
It was mentioned.
Slavery was a really major aspect of people getting rich off of other people's labor at the time.
Absolutely.
And represented... I mean, it represented a lot of fucked up shit, but, that Gareth's privilege is also white privilege here in this story.
It's not... Yes, it's not
actually. And that, like, you know, a lot of times, like, people who are not given opportunities because of prejudice against them, they have to find ways of supporting themselves that, like, aren't quote-unquote legal because they're not allowed to do anything else. And so it's like, that's still happening.
Absolutely.
Like, they get pushed out, people get pushed out on purpose, and then thrown in jail for that. Like, and that's fucked up. And so I like that that's included in this book, even though it's
not really expanded upon.
I wish it was discussed more, but I think that that's a good thing that you noticed that, because I did not see that at all. I mean, I kind of suspected that Josh was likely like mixed race of some kind from like maybe like Italy or, you know, any other place that, you know, England would be like quote unquote tan-skinned, dark-skinned people.
Absolutely. So then I would like to say that the plot kind of gets a little complicated. I will say that for this book, I do believe there was a lot plot-wise going on, and that sometimes it was hard to keep track of events. I know Izza and I kind of discussed this. I don't know what your thoughts are, Izza, on that, but there's
a lot of stuff going on. It was a lot of like dialogue-driven plot that I think was kind of... I was, like, overwhelmed by it a little bit, because I was like, wait, it's been 3 pages, and we've already gone through, like, 10 life stories and backgrounds, and wait, what is happening now? Now we're learning that... Yeah. So eventually, through these conversations, like, Gareth learns that his dad, like, did a lot of illegal gold, like, trade or something. What was he? Guineas? Yeah, like, he was... So, how does he find that? Because that's sort of the second plot of the book.
What happens is that Gareth's Uncle Henry and his cousin Lionel arrive.
Right, so a shitty uncle who adopted him, who his dad dumped
They arrive at the house.
And then his shitty brother-in-law. Not brother-in-law. Cousin, yeah. Well, I mean, not brother-in-law.
It's cousin, it's the Uncle Henry and cousin Lionel. And they arrive at the home.
Right, so they just show up, they're like, oh, looks like, what's his face died.
They're
Let me come over.
They're very kind of condescending. Gareth's uncle is he's acting very shifty. He keeps trying to get into Gareth's locked study. He tries to look at his father's papers. And Gareth gets into an argument with him and finally says, look, you know, this is my house. These are my things. You have no right to them. I'm the head of the family now, and you don't own any of this. His uncle then tells Gareth that while your father owed me 10,000 guineas, and that now you owe me that money. And Gareth throws his uncle out of the house. He says, get out. Get out. I don't want you here. Lionel, the cousin, gets to remain, but Gareth does not particularly enjoy him either. He wants him out of the house too.
Right, because he's also trying to sweet talk Cecilia, his sister.
And, you know, Lionel is an adult man.
Stepsister.
And the sister... It's like, she's a young girl. She's like 15, 16.
Which was normal, but also he's like,
yeah, he says, no. Absolutely not. He's like, you're not doing this.
Because, of course, he's trying to get her to, like, maybe marry
him. And then
he
has rights to the
money absolutely. And all that, whatever, and it's just the whole thing.
Well, Gareth and Joss, you know, Gareth goes to him and says, oh my God, this is so frustrating. This is so annoying. And then he says, I don't understand what he means that I owe him 10,000 guineas. What is he talking about? And then through Joss, Gareth learns that his father and uncle could be involved with smuggling gold into France. And Joss says, well, maybe that last shipment just didn't make it back to your uncle before your father died. So I think, you know...
So they think there's this last shipment floating around, buried somewhere, or hoarded so that, you know, that he wouldn't have to give it to his uncle, or that, yeah, basically he thinks that Gareth is, like, hoarding the wealth on purpose and is trying to, like, bully him out of it through any means possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so this is where I say the plot just got slightly a little bit too complicated, and I feel like it should have been simplified just a little bit, but I'm going to try to explain this in as plain terms as I possibly can. So, there is a cousin known as Goldie in the Doomsday family. Okay, so we following so far. His name is Luke, but everyone calls him Goldie. Joss's, yeah,
And
go ahead.
that's his kid. That's the kid that delivered the
Yeah, like
mail,
he
right?
kind of runs errands for Joss, but he's kind of a shy.
He's the one that's like sent
Yeah,
out to like, hey, can you deliver this to so and
yeah,
so? He was the one who was trying to get the letter to Gareth, and Gareth was like,
yeah.
nah, take it back. And like, so he's just kind of helping out where he
Mm-hmm.
can. The minion of the
Yeah, and
family.
he's kind of a shy little kid, basically. Not little, but he's a teenager. He's a kid. He's a kid.
He's
He's a
a
young
young
teen.
teen, and he's being abused by his
Mm-hmm.
dad,
He, yeah,
Elijah, who is
Elijah.
his Joss's
Yes,
uncle. So this is
still in
still
the
in the
Doomsday
Doomsday
family.
family. So he's like a problematic uncle who's
Mm-hmm.
abusive and fucks up his
Mm-hmm.
son.
What? And well,
And
Joss's family
yeah,
says that Goldie caught you and Gareth together. What's that about? And the father, Elijah, is trying to convince Luke, you need to confess. You need to confess. Or Goldie. Luke is Goldie, the shy sort of cousin.
yeah, like
Tell on
tell
him.
on
Yeah.
them that you know that
Together.
they're sleeping together and doing all this stuff, and then he doesn't, and that's when he
Right. And
beats
then
him up.
Joss is like, oh, hell no. And he starts punching the uncle, Elijah. Like, just starts going at him and throws him out of the house.
We got
He's like,
violence,
oh,
people.
absolutely not. And then what I find really interesting is that Luke and Gareth, so Goldie and Gareth, go back to Gareth's home. And he's helping Luke kind of heal up. And, the aunt is kind of,
He's like, we
yeah,
gotta
we
get
gotta get
this
this
kid
kid
out
out
of
of here.
here.
And Gareth is taking care of this kid, and his aunt is taking care of him, and the sister, like everyone's just very invested in poor Goldie, right? He's got a black eye and like a bloody nose, and right. And then as he's, letting him heal up, he's giving Goldie books and finds out that Goldie is very quite intelligent. And Gareth kind of rats on Joss. And he kind of says, what is going on? You are letting your cousin.
I mean, he doesn't
He
rat
yells
on him,
at
but he
him
yells
and
at him.
says,
He's like,
look,
dude, what are you doing? Like, this kid
like
needs to get
hell.
help. Like, he needs to be saved. Like, he has all of this, within him that he wants to do, and you're just, like, letting him get beat up by his
And
shitty
he's like,
dad.
look, this kid is intelligent. You should have known. You should have done something sooner. And then we get back to Gareth's feelings of insecurity because he's also upset that they could have been found out. And he tells Joss, look, I relied on you too much. We were almost caught in the secret spot when he was told, it was safe.
Right, because they had a secret spot during the plot. They banged. There were some other scenes where people were kind of covering for them because Josh's sister knew and was trying to cover for them, found them like a hunting cabin, and then okay, so Gareth and Josh have a fight about
Yeah,
Luke,
they have
right?
a fight. It's over him, but then like Gareth's insecurities, it kind of leaks over into, well, we were almost caught, and you told me it was safe, and I can't trust you.
Right. And it's like this kid relied on you to protect him, and you didn't. And it's sort of like I think there's a lot. What's cool about this dynamic is that Gareth really relates to Luke about being a kid with no help. That just things keep happening to him, and it's not his fault, and there's no one there to stop it. And Gareth is like, I wish I had me now to help when I was this poor kid getting fucking shat on by adults and didn't have any help. And like, you were right there, man. And Joss is like, I can only do so much because my mom's technically in charge of this. Like, what she says goes, it's not really up to me. I've been telling her this guy sucks, and there's nothing I can do aside from, like, beating the shit out of him whenever he beats the shit out of Luke. Go be Joss Doomsday.
Yeah, that's what he says to him.
That was
what he said at the end of that argument. Like, Gareth feels incapable, and he says, just go and be Joss Doomsday. It's what you do best. So...
Like, as in, instead of
he's
what is... Like, instead of us trying to do what we're doing...
You just go do your thing, this is over.
This is clearly
he's like,
too
this
hard.
Is over. He's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Again, it goes back to that sort of insecurity that he has about, being...
Yeah, fear of being abandoned by people close to him.
Yeah.
Which is, I like that that's a recurring theme in this book. It, like, is intentional, which I appreciate. It's like, no, this is, like, the wound that, like, this main character is trying to overcome.
Mm-hmm. And he spent the whole book, you know, trying to overcome that.
Right, which is, like, nice. The cohesion is nice.
And then Gareth continues. What we see is this sort of relationship. Gareth sort of opens up this friendship between him and Goldie, or Luke, the cousin. And he keeps bringing him to the house, and he gives him special attention. He, you know,
he's, like, teaching
books.
him stuff,
yeah,
you know? He's like,
him.
You like information? I like information. Let me show you all this stuff. So he kind of, like, adopts him a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And then there's this other cousin in the Doomsday Clan that also is kind of problematic, and his name is Lionel. He's not really like a hugely important character, but he does kind of cause issues. Gareth actually gets into a public argument with this Doomsday cousin.
Wait, I thought Lionel was Gareth's cousin.
It is... No, Lionel...
You said Doomsday cousin.
Oh, I
Gareth
meant...
bonds with Luke.
Jeez.
Luke is Doomsday cousin. Lionel, which is annoying that they both have L names.
See, that is like...
Because
again,
I was getting them mixed up too.
Yes. That is one thing about this book I will say. The plot was extremely convoluted, and if you were not paying close attention, it could get really confusing really, really fast.
So Lionel's in the house. He's like, get this bitch out of here because you're snooping too, just like your shitty dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Gareth's shitty cousin. And then Lionel starts... Oh, what does Lionel say to Luke? Because Luke is hanging out. And Lionel's also at the house. He says
like a really shitty remark about Luke. Like he like calls him like a name or something. I can't remember. Like basically he's like, I can't believe you took on this like stupid kid. Like basically. And then Gareth is like, oh shit. Like Gareth like is like, nope. I'm punching you. I'm punching you in the face. Get in.
Did he actually punch him in the face?
Yeah, he like laid it. Well, I don't think he punched him in the face, but he kind of like laid into him. He's like, you get out of my freaking house, like right now.
Yeah, so then, okay, so since he's out of the house, and then is that when someone like harasses Gareth?
So actually, so Gareth sees this, and some of the other townspeople kind of see this too, because this happens in public. This is a public argument.
Well, right. It's a small town. Everybody knows what's going on.
Right.
It's not, this is not a secret.
Right. And so when the local gentry who are standing there see what is going on and hear the remarks that Lionel makes about poor Goldie.
Wait, where are the local where does this happen?
This is in public. So this is at like a street, I believe. It happened like on a street. And yeah, and
I don't remember this scene much, but
well, what's interesting
the details of it, whatever.
What was interesting to me was that the local gentry, they're like, Lionel, that's really horrible. Why would you say those things to this poor kid that's had so much going on? Like, why would you say that? So they actually kind of turned on him, and it was really funny. It was like,
yeah, like one of you is out marsh and one of you is in marsh.
Yeah,
you know what we're gonna do?
Protect
the outmarsh. Get out of here.
Yeah, like get out of here.
Bars. Don't fucking talk shit. We'll kill you.
Yeah. And what I also love is that the aunt, she knows. Gareth's aunt, Catherine. Her name is Catherine. And she knows.
So, for protection, because they've been getting targeted by random squads, but it's not the Doomsdays, right? Because when did they find out that it was the other guys? So, because you didn't write about that in the notes.
So
when they found out it wasn't the Doomsdays harassing people and like bullying them and attacking them.
Yeah, so basically, because of what happens with Luke, and because Luke is having such kind of animosity towards him, even with some of the Doomsdays, because some of the Doomsdays, they're kind of, I wouldn't say on the uncle side, but they're kind of like, well, this is just what we do, and I feel like some of the Doomsdays didn't see Luke as a victim. I kind of felt like a lot of them kind of sided with the uncle a little bit. And Joss says he wants to stay in the home to watch over the house. He says, I want to protect you guys, and I want to protect you, Gareth, and the family, because I don't want anyone coming here, and I don't want anyone hurting you. And what Catherine says made me like squeal with happiness. So she says, she goes to Gareth and she's like, should I make up a bed for Joss, or will you two be staying in the same room? and Gareth is like, what? What are you talking about? He's like trying to play it off.
Like,
like,
oh yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, look, you're a good man. You deserve to be happy. She basically says, I accept you as you are. You're a good man.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter to me. You've protected me. You've protected your sister. And this is where we are. And I loved that sort of representation because I wouldn't say a lot, but there's been, storylines with LGBT where it's like the family's not accepting or whatever.
Right. It's a very, accepting story where it's almost like if things were different, maybe it could be like this more. Like, maybe the stories would be more like this in general, rather than people being, cast out in the street for it.
Right. Absolutely. So the last sort of little bit of plot here, again, gets a little convoluted. It's my only complaint of the book, that the plot it was a lot of plot. It was a lot. And I feel like this could have been condensed into
probably could have been a series,
I feel like the plot needed a plot line instead of I felt like there was so much going on that it was really hard to kind of keep track of what was going on. It's like, okay. So anyway, when Joss finally returns to his own home, he stays for a few days, stays in the home, makes sure everything, and Gareth's home, and makes sure that everything is safe, everything's fine. When he goes back to his own home, Uncle Elijah has been found dead. And the Doomsdays think that Joss has done it, right?
Because he was the last one to punch him in the face.
Right. He's like, you got into an argument with your uncle. And so, but Joss's alibi, of course, is that, actually, I couldn't have done that because I was sitting up there with my boyfriend for a couple days. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't kill him.
Yeah, so they find out that, Elijah was hanging out with Gareth's shitty Uncle Henry or whatever. And they're like, I wonder who possibly could have killed him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see, Elijah told them where they could find the guineas, which was a lie, because he doesn't know where they are.
Yeah, he doesn't know where they are. He don't know
but
jack
he was
shit.
like, yeah, give me money and I'll tell you where to find them, and then they killed him.
Oh, basically, a man comes to take Gareth out of the home, and he says, I'm a messenger from Joss. And it's actually cousin Elijah and this other, shady sort of guy who also wanted to
He's from a rival clan.
Yeah,
the
Sweetwater clan.
We find out about earlier, and that ends up being the clan that was actually going after them.
Mm-hmm. And Luke tells...
And it's all about the money.
Yeah, it's all about the money. And Luke goes to Joss and he tells him, oh my god, you gotta get down there, They're planning on going after Gareth, and they plan on going after Cecilia. You've got to get down there and rescue them. So, of course, they all ends up well in the end, of course.
In the meantime, Gareth gets kidnapped and threatened and tied to a rock, and then the tide's coming in, and he's going to drown alive.
And the water's
everybody's
freezing.
Running around trying to fucking find him. And then Josh finally figures out where he's at just before he's gonna drown, but he's been hanging up by his arms the whole time.
And it's
so they have to haul him out up a cliff. So that's a whole thing.
And it's so sweet because Josh is like, oh, sweetheart. And I'm like, it's so cute.
It's gay.
Cute. And anyway, everything ends up well. Kind of tied up like a Jane Austen novel, really. Everything ended up well. And I loved...
wait, what ends up happening to the guys, though? They get killed, but how do they get killed?
Hey.
You didn't write about the killing.
Okay. Cousin Lionel, tells them that Bill Sweetwater, which is the Sweetwater guy, was the one who killed Elijah. Or Uncle Elijah. And
Bill Sweetwater, rival clan guy.
Yes.
Thug.
So see what I mean by the plot getting convoluted? We have too many characters.
There's a lot of guys.
There's a lot of things going on. But basically what happens is I believe they end up getting killed either by Gareth or Joss. I can't remember which.
Did Gareth kill somebody? I don't think he did.
I don't think he did.
But anyway, somehow everything I think
ends
like
up
the
well.
clans deal with it. Like they kind of are like, all right, well, you fucked with one of ours, so we're fucking with one of yours.
Yes.
He's gonna die.
Yes.
I have to tell you this.
Yes. It's kind of this sort of, well, you screwed up. Good luck.
Someone kills him.
And what I love is this ending. So Joss and Gareth are in the marsh. And they tell each other, we would marry if we could. And Joss makes Gareth a ring out of marsh grass. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. And they kind of get pretend married. Like, they kind of like say vows to each other, basically. But don't really, obviously.
They're like, I hope we get to be together forever in some capacity. We don't care what it is.
Right. And so that was the ending, and it was really super sweet.
Yeah, do you think there's any, like, follow-up type stuff that's, like... Is there, like, another one in the series?
There is. A series? There is. So this author is actually doing... So the series is called, like, the Doomsday Clan series. So she's doing, books on the Doomsday Clan. So the next book, actually, I
would read more of these.
Oh, yeah.
This was good. Yeah, it was a good book. I liked it.
Yeah. And, eventually, we're going to circle back around to the second book. It was either one of my choices or one of yours. Anyway...
one of these. It was probably one of yours.
We have an ongoing list, guys. But I put it on here.
10 years long.
10 years long. Yeah, pretty much. But it is actually a book about Goldie, the cousin, when he is grown up.
Oh, well, that's kind of cute. I wonder if they're going to play around with, more family trauma stuff, but from, their perspective, and then how that's going to, play out in adulthood and stuff like that. That would be kind of cool to see.
Mm-hmm. And,
so we'll read that eventually, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the author kind of said that Joss and Gareth do make appearances, so you get to see them again in some capacity.
What they're up to.
What they're doing. Yeah. So anyway... We will get to those eventually. We do have, an ongoing list.
With that, the book is over.
But yeah, with that, the book is over. Thank you guys so much for supporting us.
Thanks for listening. This was a good time. I mean, it was a good book. Aaron, what would you rate this book? We're just going to do easy peasy rate. Should we do it out of 10 or out of 5?
We can do it out of 10. I would give it a 7 out of 10 just because I feel the plot could have been condensed down a little bit. Overall, though, great descriptions. Great setting, 2 great characters that were just fun to watch.
Yeah, the characters were really good.
Yeah.
The people's dynamics were really good. Conflict resolution, you could see, grappling with their feelings and, what the feelings were. Loved that.
And what would you rate it?
I think, honestly, I would go 8 out of 10 because I've read so much crap that my standards are so low. But, I think this was a very solid book, solid story. The plot was a little convoluted, but I liked that it was trying to be more than just a romance book, I guess.
That is true.
Because I understand. But I also think it probably would have been fine as just a romance book.
Yeah.
But, the drama was, fun.
Mm-hmm.
I did manage to understand it, even though it was a lot of characters. But, maybe fewer characters, it would have been good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we really needed both Elijah and that other clan.
Yeah,
because I feel like they were the same guys.
Yes, it was we don't need 10,000 characters.
Right, it was all the same antagonist, but slightly different. So that's, I think, but aside from that, it was a good book. I hope to see more outfits.
Oh yes, me too.
My one complaint: more outfits. All right, well, that's that. See you guys on the flip side. Hopefully we'll get this out sooner rather than later.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.